Hello everyone, welcome to this new video, and I'm going to be talking about this chromatic scale that I just did. But before that, please hit the like button, press the bell notification, subscribe, leave a comment, share if you can, because this makes a huge difference. It's been a very difficult last year and a half because of the pandemic, and doing this allows me to make just a little bit of money. This content and all others are 100% free. If you want to support me financially, I don't have Patreon, but you can go check out my courses on SoundSlice. I have Gypsy Jazz courses, I have harmony courses, bebop courses. You can also buy something from DC Music School. And if you want to check out my music, I have some recordings with Duvet Dunayevsky and Jimmy Rosenberg. So you'll find all the links in the description box. And of course, I want to thank AT Guitars for this wonderful guitar. This guitar is made in Japan. So thank you so much for this guitar, and let's get started. So this video is about the idea of playing multiple notes with just one finger, so on just one string. And this chromatic scale is one of the best examples of this. And this is something that is obviously used a lot in gypsy jazz, but if you look at old guitar players like Wes Montgomery, George Benson, many others, you'll notice that they tend to play horizontally. And this is a technique that will allow you to do this. It's a great shifting technique as well that unfortunately a lot of guitar players nowadays don't learn how to do, because everyone is learning about positions, which of course these positions are great, but combined with the idea of being able to shift effortlessly, then you can do really cool lines. Let's start with the chromatic scale first, the way Django did it. There are actually two ways. There's the measured way and the unmeasured way. Regardless of which one you choose to do, there's one thing to understand, is that this chromatic thing is more of an effect than anything else. And as an effect, it doesn't necessarily have to be 100% clean. And I know this because I've transcribed many instances of the best players doing this. And sometimes I can hear that these little imperfections, and it's normal because it's not easy to play multiple notes with just one finger. Of course, it would be great if you can make it as clean as possible so that the effect is more believable. And I'm saying all this so that you don't get discouraged if in case you're practicing and it's not like 100% perfect. Trust me, the best players are not 100% perfect either. So the measured way first. Measured way means that each note is perfectly timed and quantized. So let me give you an example. What I did early in the beginning of this video was starting from the note D here up to the note D here, 2 octaves higher. And in that space, you have 2 octaves. And if you play them as 16th notes, it fits perfectly. 1 E and up, 2 E and up, 3 E and up, 4 E and up, 1 E and up, 2 E and up, 3. So it's 1 bar and a half. You can also do it in 3/4 and play it over a waltz, so you have 2 bars. So 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 1. So when you want to practice this measured way, I would suggest that you put on a metronome, or better yet, a backing track. And so for example, you take something in 3/4 and you try it, make sure that it starts on beat 1 and it ends on beat 1 2 bars later. The unmeasured way, you start on a particular beat or even on an offbeat, doesn't matter, and you end somewhere specific, usually on a beat as well, but you don't care what happens in between. And this happens quite a lot as well. Django used this one as well. Notably, if you see that one video of him that exists playing on a tune called J'attendrai, there's a part where he goes, right? That's an example of unmeasured chromatic scale. In fact, it's not a real chromatic scale. Not real, because if you look at the video, he's doing this. And instead of going to this note, he just skips. So he's just doing 4 notes per string. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. You can see him. So that's already one thing to be aware of. That's one way to play faster and be more consistent with the right hand. Because the right hand just has to do. Okay, And then the second way we can tell that this is not a real chromatic scale, or kind of like, or rather that it's a trick and it's not 100% clean, is that he starts on a downstroke here and he ends up downstroke on this note F, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's the note where he lands on. I should have verified before doing this video. But if you calculate from open string, down, up, 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 it's not possible to end up on a downstroke if you do down, up on the note F. Yet he does land on the downstroke, because you can hear the accent. You can actually see it in the video as well. Can you? I don't remember. But you hear the accent. So for such things, of course, practice it as clean as possible, but it's not meant to be practiced slowly. Just because if it's practiced slowly, it's not going to work out. Mathematically, it's just not going to work out that you're going to end up with a downstroke here. And one more thing, so even if you practice it measured, it's still very difficult to practice it slowly, because it's about this continuous motion of the hand. If you do it too slow, you end up with this, where your hand is pausing. So you have to find the slowest tempo where you can maintain this moving hand thing. So something along these lines. And again, it's okay that it's not 100% perfect. When you do this measure thing though, try to do it with a metronome or tapping your foot as well. There we go. You can try, if you start from the note E, from the high E string to here, you can try 16th notes, 1 E and up, 2 E and up, 3 E and up, 4. Or I can do triplets. Da 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 da, sorry. Da 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 You can also do this little exercise where you practice it one beat at a time and getting it as clean as possible, keeping in mind that you can't do it too slowly. So let's see this tempo. Add another beat. Add another beat. Oh, that was not perfect. Let's slow it down as much as possible. There we go. See, it was not 100% clean. I managed to get the notes to come out, but sometimes I was picking the notes as I was sliding in between notes. And finally, we can add the last beat. That was not bad. And then of course you can try to do it faster, keeping in mind that the slower you do it, the harder it is. And the faster you do it, it might not always be 100% clean either. But as long as you start and land where you intended to land and where you intended to start, then it's good. So when you're playing, obviously you can choose whether to make it measured or unmeasured. When you do it unmeasured, then you can kind of improvise, do it by feel. When it's measured, usually you have to prepare in advance, prepare a few different ideas. So again, if you did 16th notes, starting on the note D, and then landing on the note D 2 octaves above, that equals 1.5 bars or 2 bars in 3/4. So you can plan this accordingly so you can land specifically. For example, if you start this D on the third beat of a measure, it's going to land on a 1.5 bars later. So you time things that way. You can also prepare certain phrases. Let's say you're over a B7 chord, and you want to play B7 and land on E minor. So you can do this kind of hybrid, starting off with something that's more logical over the chord, but then ending up being the chromatic scale. For example, here's this phrase. Simple. Start on the note D sharp. So it's a scale. Da, 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 da. So you do this. And then from here, you just do 16th notes. So continue 16 notes with chromatic scale, sorry. So 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and E and 3. And if you want this to land on beat 1, then you just start it 2 beats later. Or if it's a 3/4 tune, then you start it on beat 1 and it's going to land 2 bars later. Django had no choice but to use the first 2 fingers. And he would do it like this: 0, 1, 2, 2. But of course, if you want to, you can do 0, 1, 2, 3, 3. However you want to do it, as long as it works. So that's basically how you practice this technique. Now let's talk about real life situations where it can be useful and where it's not a trick. First of all, there's this idea of doing these kinds of chordal things that Django again popularized. Let's say you have a D7 chord and you want to do this kind of big band brass shots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm taking this D9 shape. Some people do it like this. Use whichever fingering you like. And start at 2 frets below, and then like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and 2, and I'm doing down, up, down, so I can have the accent on the offbeat. So it's the same technique. It's just da 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 da. In this case, because of the rhythm, it's not actually a continuous motion. I actually do stop here and then continue. But when you're practicing that chromatic thing, you want to have this continuous motion. And then you have these things as well. Let's say a D9 chord again, or A minor. This. And the trick about this technique is if you look at my left hand thumb, it stays put. It's this rotation of the wrist. Never mind. Just I guess not rotation, but this back and forth movement. So you practice it slowly. Some people do this too. So it's just a very useful thing to be able to do because you can do all these cool tricks. And then the other real world application is you can do these effortless, well, I wouldn't say effortless, but these seemingly effortless shifts. And you see people like George Benson, Wes Montgomery, and a lot of players do this when they shift from position to position. So for example, I'll play this one phrase. So look at what I did. Here I shifted. Oof, out of tune. So with these kinds of shifts, I usually do no more than 3 notes in a row. For example, this is what I did. So this is where it starts. 1, 2, 3. For me, I feel this is what the cleanest that I can get away with. That wasn't clean. There we go. And it's the same here. So it allows you to do a lot of these phrasings by intuition, because a lot of the times when I do these phrases, it happens in a moment, and because I've done this, I'm so familiar with this shifting technique that it's relatively effortless for me. So obviously you can take phrases like the one that I just played and practice that, but here's another way you can practice it. You can take this thing, like over a C chord, but do with 2 fingers. So besides looking cool, what is the advantage of doing this? Well, if you played it really fast, sorry. At one point, my pinky will start to feel a little bit tired because it's a weak finger. But if I did it this way, as far as the left hand is concerned, I can do this forever. It's more likely that my right hand will get tired. And when you do this, you're practicing this shifting technique. Again, this shifting means you don't shift the whole hand. You just shift, you keep the thumb in place, and you just shift the hand like this. The thumb stays in the same position. And you only move the thumb when you're doing multiple shifts. Okay? It doesn't matter which finger you shift with, because it's more about this motion than anything else. It's not about the finger strength. So that's another example of a phrase that uses this chromatic thing. Triplets. So give this thing a try, and it's just another tool that you can use. And it's a very useful tool because it allows you to do these horizontal lines with much less effort. And then basically you have two ways to shift. You can shift with this trick, or you can do the traditional quote-unquote guitar shifting technique like classical guitar players will do. That kind of thing. And really in my playing, in my jazz playing, it's a mix of the two. It's gone to the point where I've practiced both so much that my fingers or my hands will automatically do one or the other on the spot. And as far as the left hand is concerned, the fingerboard, navigating the fingerboard, I don't have too many difficulties because of these two useful ways of shifting. One extra cool thing is, on account of having practiced these shifting tricks so much, sometimes automatically I do these hybrid shifts that combine both techniques. So check it out. This so here's that one finger trick, and then let's say I want to continue. I do the traditional classical guitar shifting, shifting position. See? As I already shift here, I'm already preparing for this shift here. So that's one of the side effects of having practiced this shifting thing. Good luck.